One of the major underlying themes of both After the Fall and Before the Dawn is that the trauma suffered at the fall of Beacon Academy still remains in all those who experienced it, even more than a year after the fall of Beacon took place. This is especially true for those who attended Beacon Academy and saw their home crumble around them, overrun by Grimm. But this is also true for those who stayed and fought to defend Beacon Academy, those from other kingdoms, other academies, etc. And so in this video I'm going to go over some of those events and the important implications that there might be for the future of RWBY that we might see when we get to Vacuo. So just a brief spoiler warning for those who have not read Before the Dawn, I will be going over some of the plot points that take place in there, though I won't be going over the main plot of Before the Dawn in general, so just a spoiler warning on that. Now, we start off Before the Dawn with Team Sun arriving at Shade Academy. They've been there for about a month now, but Team Coffee introduces them to a group that they had formed, or helped formed, called the Beacon Brigade. This is a group of people who had stayed and fought at Beacon Academy and are still recovering from the trauma that they suffered. Team Coffee lost their home. They were a star team in their second year and had called Beacon Academy home. Many of the members of Team Coffee had anticipated going to Beacon Academy when they were still training at the combat schools and had factored Beacon Academy into their plans, had hoped to graduate there, had hoped to continue their training with the rest of their team, etc. This was explored in After the Fall with Team Coffee and is continued in Before the Dawn. But when Team Sun is introduced to the Beacon Brigade, we see that there are other characters suffering from this trauma as well who didn't actually attend Beacon Academy. There was the entirety of Team Auburn from Haven Academy. They had arrived a bit before Team Sun to Shade Academy, but still they are suffering from their trauma as well. They fought alongside Beacon and saw one of the major huntsman academies of the world fall. Not to mention, they also went back to Haven Academy and saw Haven Academy attacked, their headmaster killed. Though, you know, they aren't aware of him being a traitor at this point, they still saw their schools being attacked, and this is a realization for the entire world that someone is attacking the Huntsman Academies, and it is only a matter of time before Shade Academy is next. But there is one other key member of the Beacon Brigade who is suffering more trauma than pretty much anyone else there that we have seen in Before the Dawn. Granted, there are definitely going to be other people in his situation, but Before the Dawn focuses on this character, Nolan Porfirio. He is a member of Team Bronze. We were introduced to them in the Vital Festival Tournament in Volume 3, right alongside Team Auburn, and he was on a team with Bronze Knee, Roy Stallion, and Mei Zedong. But staying and fighting at the fall of Beacon Academy cost him a lot. He lost his family. All of the rest of his team died at the fall of Beacon Academy. Roy Stallion, Mei Zedong, and Bronze Knee are all deceased, and Nolan has been suffering with this trauma for over a year at Shade Academy. The Huntsman Academies are geared towards teams. A lot of the missions that teams are sent out on, and a lot of the things that teams are capable of doing, are only possible with the school's curriculum because they are a team. And Nolan has been alone through all of this. He has, of course, the Beacon Brigade to help support him, but one of the first things we hear him say in Before the Dawn is that he should have died at Beacon Academy. He has survivor's remorse. He has survivor's guilt. He thought he should have died fighting alongside the rest of his team, that he shouldn't have survived. This is something that impacts very hard, and something that isn't really had a chance to be explored in the RWBY series itself, as, well, we're following Team RWBY and Team Juniper, and they are aware of who is causing this, who is attacking the academies, and they have a goal that they have their minds set on. Whereas Team Coffee, Team Sun, Team Auburn, and Nolan, they have no idea what is going on behind the scenes. All they know is someone is attacking the academies, and they are left to sit and wait for the next academy to be attacked until something actually happens. That is something that can't be ignored. They don't have the goal of defeating Salem to focus on, to keep pushing them forward. They are left to sit and wait and focus on the regrets that they have of that night. The people, the friends that they lost, the family members that they will never see again. This is something that is incredibly important for the story moving forward, and I'm so happy that they're able to explore this in RWBY Before the Dawn, RWBY After the Fall. This was also explored briefly in the RWBY DC Comics as well, but when it comes to Nolan Porfirio, this is this is something very important, and it is explored a little bit more in Before the Dawn, as in Before the Dawn, new teams were formed. This was due to various manipulation behind the scenes that Theodore was convinced by Professor Rumpel, his right hand, to reform all of the teams, break apart the teams that were currently formed, and form just brand new ones going through a reinitiation process. This was a bit disruptive to teams that were already pretty cohesive, such as Team Coffee, but was beneficial for other teams such as Team Sun, which had some discourse within their ranks. But most of all, this was very useful for Nolan, because he didn't have a team before this point, and now having a new team, he could start to form more bonds, have another group that he could call a family. Eventually, if it was able to get that far. They were only really introduced as a team, and then was disbanded not very long after that when the plot of Before the Dawn took place. But Nolan got a brief chance to be part of something again, and this was very important for his recovery. We saw how he progressed throughout Before the Dawn. But one of the most important interactions that Nolan had was actually the interaction he had with Scarlet David. I came to love Scarlet's character so much more in Before the Dawn. We never really got to explore his character in Volume 3 in the Vital Festival Tournament, as he was just introduced as a member of Team Sun alongside Sage Ayana. We didn't really get to explore Sage in this book, unfortunately, but Scarlet David did get a lot of development. We learned his semblance, we got more of his personality, how he will not put up with any of Sun's bullshit, which was amazing, but also the caring nature that Scarlet has. He saw Nolan's suffering and was pretty much one of the only people, at least from Team Sun, who directly went to Nolan and was there actively talking to him, supporting him, and trying to help him, be a friend, etc. And Scarlet, he is one of the canon gay characters in the world of RWBY. This was confirmed by the creators of the show themselves, and also, I think, hinted at back in Volume 3 when Team Sun entered the Vital Festival Tournament, entered Amity Coliseum, and all the girls were, holding up the posters, fawning over all of the members of Team Sun. Well, it was a guy who was holding up a picture of Scarlet, so I don't know if that's a hint at Scarlet being gay or what have you, but he is one of the canon gay characters, and in Before the Dawn, there was a couple instances where Scarlet was commenting on the looks of Nolan, calling him, a pretty boy type thing, seeming like he was attracted to him. Now, that wasn't the overall goal of Scarlet going to talk to Nolan. He was going to talk to him for general support, being a friend, being supportive, etc. But I would love to see it in the future if Nolan and Scarlet actually developed a relationship. We don't know anything about Nolan's sexuality, how he identifies, etc., but still, if going forward, it seems like that might be a direction that it might move, and I would love to see that happen. Regardless, I want to see Scarlet and Nolan appear on screen again as just supporting characters, supporting each other, and both as members of Team Sun. As when it got to the end of Before the Dawn, when Team Sun was reformed, the previous teams that were made by Theodore through this reinitiation were disbanded, and the previous teams were reinstated, Nolan was again on his own. He had that new family that he had, even again, it was only for a couple days, didn't really have much bonding experience, but it was hope that he had, and now it was taken away, and he was on his own again. But Scarlet was continuing to support him, and once Team Sun was reinstated, they all kind of came to an agreement saying that, you know what, Sun, you're not a great leader, but you can improve, there are other leaders that are much worse, etc., and they kind of came to an understanding and are staying as a team. But after that point, Scarlet went over and talked to Nolan again, being a good friend, etc. And Sun thought to himself, I really like the sound of the name Sun. Again, still keeping the name of Team Sun, but with 3 S's and 2 N's, including Nolan as part of Team Sun. That unofficially, this would be a 5-member team, as the academies themselves, of course, geared towards 4-member teams, but with talking to Theodore, with everything that happened in Before the Dawn, I'm sure Theodore and Rumpel would listen to Team Sun if they said, hey, you know what, Nolan's on his own, let's just make it a 5-member team, you can make an exception for this, it wouldn't be too much of a big deal. And seeing Nolan alongside Team Sun when we get to Vacchio is something I really hope for in the future, to see the improvement that he's made, because when we were first introduced to him in Before the Dawn, he was looking horrible. He was thin, he had dark circles under his eyes, and he was looking like he was gone through a lot of shit, not only at the fall of Beacon Academy, but over the past year, because there were a lot of people who were not kind to those who had fought and fled at Beacon Academy. Team Indigo being one of the major ones. They had fled immediately when Beacon was attacked, and are very harsh on those who were from Beacon Academy who fled their own school, thinking that they abandoned it, etc. I don't know exactly if Team Indigo was harsh on Nolan, but I'm sure that there was other people in Vacuo who were, saying that, well, their team may have been weak for losing 3 of their members at the fall of Beacon, fighting at another academy and still losing, etc. There's a lot of things that could have happened behind the scenes over this past year that contributed to Nolan's mental state, but it is definitely a testament to Nolan's strength that he was able to keep moving, keep pushing forward, and staying enrolled at Shade Academy even a year after the fall of Beacon Academy, because Shade Academy itself is, well, it's probably the harshest out of all of the academies, being Vacuo. You know, you have to survive here to be able to be accepted there. So Nolan, for him to be staying as a student at Shade Academy, because I believe he would be 3rd year at the time. We don't exactly know what year Team Bronze was in, but Team Coffee was in the 2nd year as of the Vital Festival tournament, and they're now in their 4th year. So even if Team Bronze was in their 1st year, they would be in their 3rd year now. That all makes sense, hopefully, with everyone listening to this, but still, Nolan is a very strong character in mental strength. Physical, you know, he fights with a cattle prod, not really the best weapon, but I would love to see him appear as a member of Team Sun in the future and have this trauma of Beacon Academy that it still remains in all of these characters explored later on. When we get to Vacuo, I hope that there is at least one episode that is just complete conversation between Team RWBY, Team Juniper, Team Sun, Team Coffee, and Nolan in there as part of Team Sun, as well as maybe Team Auburn, and see all of these characters just have a conversation with one another. Even if it is written out in a side story, if it's not able to be explored in the show itself, I want it to be explored in other forms of media. If it's another book or another comic, etc. Because certain things just aren't applicable to see on screen, especially if there's 16 to 20 different characters trying to have a conversation with each other. We're not going to see or hear everything that could happen. But I really hope to see Nolan as part of Team Sun when we get to Vacuo, when we see Team Sun again. And possibly having Scarlet and Nolan in a relationship with one another eventually. Maybe that's something that they would build on when we get to Vacuo and see the interactions that Scarlet and Nolan have. Maybe it's something that will happen over the course of Volume 8 and we just won't see it happen on screen. But I would like that to happen in the future. But Scarlet supporting Nolan first and foremost, and then pursuing the relationship as a secondary goal, because Nolan's mental health is, of course, most important. But still, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you hope to see Nolan as a member of Team Sun in the future? If you have read Before the Dawn, how did you like the development of Scarlet's character? Do you hope, as I do, that Scarlet and Nolan might form a relationship in the future? Because that would be something I really would like to see. I just want to see more of Scarlet in general as well, because his character is just really, really great with the amount of sass that he has, etc. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are down in the comments below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to subscribe, join the Guild of the Eternal Flame, tweet me at Phoenix Knight 7, join our Discord server as well, link in the description below. There's also the best music poll of Volume 2 currently going on. I'll link that in the description below as well. You can go there and vote for your top 3 favorite songs and or scores in Volume 2. So, hopefully you guys will enjoy with the different polls and everything going on, and with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.